When Ariba married Zion, she believed love was something that could be built brick by brick, day by day, through patience and quiet devotion. Their marriage had not begun with romance. It had begun with an agreement between families, polite smiles across a crowded living room, and a single moment when Zion had looked at her, not with warmth, not with dislike, but with a distant politeness that should have warned her how far away his heart truly was. But Ariba had been hopeful. She filled their home with light. Soft curtains that caught the morning sun, jasmine in a small vase by the window, neatly folded shirts in his wardrobe, his favorite meals prepared even when he came home late and barely touched them. She learned the rhythm of his footsteps in the hallway, the way he loosened his tie when he was tired, the exact temperature he preferred for his tea. She gave him everything that a quiet, steady love could offer, and Zion accepted it all without ever truly seeing her. Because his heart still belonged to someone else. Her name was Meher, his first love, the woman he had once planned to marry before life had torn them apart. Though she was long gone from his daily life, her shadow lingered everywhere. In the old songs he sometimes played late at night, in the way his expression softened when he thought no one was watching, in the silence that filled the space between him and his wife. Ariba never asked about her. Not once. She believed that love meant patience. That if she stayed gentle, kind, and unwavering, one day he would turn toward her fully. One day he would see her not as the woman he had married, but as the woman who loved him. Years passed in quiet hope. Then Meher returned. It happened suddenly. A message. A meeting. A flood of memories that Zion never tried to hide. He began coming home later, distracted, restless. His phone lit up with her name. His laughter, rare in their home, began to return, but never for Ariba. She watched it all with a calm that frightened even herself. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the windows, Zion finally spoke the truth aloud. I never stopped loving her. The words fell into the room like something heavy and irreversible. Ariba stood by the dining table, her hands resting lightly on the back of a chair. For a moment, she thought she might collapse. But she didn't. She only nodded, as if he had said something ordinary, something expected. I know, she said quietly. Zion looked surprised. You knew. I always knew. Her voice held no accusation, no anger, only a tired gentleness that made something twist painfully in his chest. I tried, he said, almost offensively. I really did. I know, she repeated. Silence stretched between them, filled with everything that had never been said. Finally, he spoke the words that would end everything. I think we should separate. Ariba's fingers tightened slightly on the chair, but her face remained calm. For years she had imagined this moment, feared it, prepared herself for it without even realizing she was doing so. If that will make you happy, she said. He waited for tears, for pleading, for anger. None came. She simply turned away and walked to their bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. That night, for the first time in years, Ariba cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in silent, shaking breaths that seemed to tear something loose from deep inside her. She cried for the girl who had entered this marriage with hope, for the woman who had waited and given and loved without being loved back, for the life she had built around someone who had never truly chosen her. And when morning came, she stopped crying. Something inside her had shifted, not broken, freed. In the weeks that followed, Ariba changed in ways that were subtle at first, then undeniable. She no longer waited for him to come home. She stopped cooking elaborate meals he barely touched. The jasmine by the window was replaced with a simple green plant that required little care. She began going out, first for small things, then for longer stretches of time. A class, a walk in the park, coffee alone with a book. She rediscovered parts of herself that had been buried beneath years of quiet sacrifice. She cut her hair shorter. She started wearing colors she liked instead of the soft neutrals he preferred. She laughed more, an unfamiliar, bright sound that seemed to belong to someone younger, lighter. And slowly, unmistakably, she became someone Zion did not recognize. He noticed it first when he came home early one evening and found the house empty, the lights off, the silence thick. 4 years, she had always been there, waiting, present, steady as furniture. Now she was gone. When she returned later, cheeks flushed from the cool evening air, She looked surprised to see him. "Oh, you're home early," she said. No apology, no explanation, just a simple observation. Something sharp and unexpected twisted in his chest. "Where were you?" he asked. "Out." The answer was polite, calm, and final. He realized then that she was no longer offering pieces of her life automatically. If he wanted to know, he would have to ask. And even then, she might not tell him. It unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. Meanwhile, things with Meher were not unfolding the way he had imagined. The nostalgia that had drawn them back together began to feel fragile when faced with reality. Their conversations circled the past rather than building a future. The spark he remembered flickered but did not sustain. And in the quiet moments between meetings, his thoughts drifted, not to Meher, but to the woman at home who no longer waited for him. One night, he found Ariba sitting on the balcony, a book open in her lap, the city lights reflecting softly in her eyes. She looked peaceful, self-contained, untouchable in a way she had never been before. "You seem different," he said. She glanced up, offering a small, polite smile. "People change." There was no bitterness in her voice, no sadness, just a calm acceptance that felt like a door closing. "Ariba," he began, unsure what he wanted to say. She closed her book gently. "Yes." He searched for the woman who used to look at him with quiet hope, who used to lean forward as if his words mattered deeply. But the woman before him simply waited, kind, composed, distant. He stopped. For the first time, he had no easy words. She tilted her head slightly, patient but not invested. "Is there something you need?" "Need. Not want. Not feel. Need." He shook his head. "No." She nodded and returned to her book. That night, Zion lay awake long after she had fallen asleep, staring at the ceiling as a realization settled heavily over him. He had not lost her in one moment. He had lost her slowly, over years of neglect, until there was nothing left to hold. In the days that followed, he began noticing all the small things he had once taken for granted. The way she no longer asked if he had eaten. The absence of gentle reminders, quiet concern, soft attempts to connect. Their conversations became courteous but brief, like strangers sharing a space temporarily. And the more distant she became, the more he felt drawn toward her, not out of obligation, but out of something unfamiliar and deeply unsettling. Longing. One evening, unable to bear it any longer, he spoke. "Are you happier now?" She looked up from arranging flowers on the table. Simple wildflowers, nothing like the careful arrangements she used to make. "I think I'm becoming myself again," she said softly. "Wasn't that possible before?" She met his gaze, not accusing, not emotional, simply honest. "I didn't know who I was before. I only knew who I was trying to be for you." The words landed like a quiet truth he could not argue with. "And now?" he asked. "Now I'm learning to be enough for myself." Something inside him cracked, because for the first time he understood. She no longer needed his love to feel whole. "Ariba," his voice faltered. "Did you ever hate me?" She seemed genuinely surprised by the question. "No." "Why not?" "Because I loved you," she said simply. "And then, I let that love go. Let it go. Not broken. Not stolen. Released." He realized then that the worst punishment was not anger or resentment. It was indifference. The woman who had once given him everything now offered him nothing he had not earned. Her kindness remained, but it no longer belonged to him alone. It was simply who she was, and he had never valued it until it was no longer his. On a quiet morning, as sunlight spilled across the room, Zion watched her preparing to leave, adjusting the strap of her bag, humming softly to herself. She looked alive in a way he had never noticed before. "Ariba," he said. She turned. "Yes." "Will you be home for dinner?" She considered the question for a moment. "I'm not sure," she said gently. "Don't wait for me." The same words he had told her countless times, now returned to him, softened but unmistakable. She walked out, closing the door behind her. And for the first time since their marriage began, Zion understood what it meant to be the one left waiting for someone who might never come back the same again. Because the woman who had once loved him completely had awakened into someone stronger, freer, and beyond his reach. Untouchable, not because she had built walls, but because she no longer needed to cross the distance between them. And in losing her quiet devotion, he finally saw her worth. But by then, she had already learned to see her own.